UBB have dominated Northampton Saints in the Champions Cup final to lift their first ever silverware, not just on the European stage, but at any level in their short history. At 32,000 fans per week attending them in the top 14, they can now legitimately claim to be the biggest rugby club in the world. But what's surprising about them is just 20 years ago, they didn't even exist. To talk more about this historic match and learn more about what I now think has a good claim to be the biggest rugby club in the world, I am joined by my good friend, Madame Maz Mac, aka my co-host from the Atlantic Coast on the Top 14 Digest podcast. Maz, thank you so much for joining me today.
Avec plaisir, Hugh. Thank you very much for inviting me to talk.
Yes, Maz, you're an experienced podcaster now. Since you've been doing the Top 14 Digest with me, you've been invited on all French podcasts, Ulster podcasts, all these sorts of things.
Yeah, and I think it was because as well, Ulster, where I'm from originally, and Bordeaux being in the same group for the Champions Cup, it was interesting to both sides to see my point of view. So I got invited to do a load of ones. Yeah, so it was really good because up until we started doing the Parley-Vous rugby, I hadn't been on a podcast ever. So it's completely new to me this year.
Well, that's not true. You came on the Pirate Rugby Pod way back in the day with me and Ender.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did indeed. I forgot about that.
So
Yeah.
there you go. We're getting an expert this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's continuing the trend of I get South Africans to tell me about Japanese rugby. I get Australians to talk to me about this, that, and the other. I get English people to talk to me about Spanish rugby. This evening, I've got an Ulster woman telling me about French rugby, and I couldn't be more excited. So, for those of you who are thinking, what are they on about? So, myself and Maz do a weekly podcast that's short-ish, talking about the top 14. You can check it out. It's audio only, so you need to go on Apple or Spotify and search the Top 14 Digest. You'll catch us talking about the top 14 every single week, and most importantly, getting le gossip from French rugby, which is the most important thing that we do on that podcast. But that's enough of the promos. Let's talk about this game. So, Maz, firstly, first ever trophy for your adopted club in France, Union Bordeaux-Begles. Just how does it feel?
It almost feels like today I was going, did that really happen? Did that really happen? Absolutely thrilled for them. They're such a good club to be around and to support. And yeah, it was fantastic. They had, I think we had talked about this earlier on. They had kind of targeted the Champions Cup this year as some competition they could possibly win. And for them to go out and do it, yeah, absolutely thrilled. Thrilled.
And you were out and about in town today, and apparently the place is absolutely rocking.
Oh, it's amazing. The streets in Bordeaux are absolutely huge. They're very, very wide streets, and it was packed. They had a reception at the Hotel de Ville, like the town hall, and then they went by bus all the way up through past all the big shopping streets and that out to the park, and it was just jammed, unbelievable. Good to see. Yeah, the whole town, the whole city came out behind them. So yeah, good.
Yeah, it looks it. It looks it. And we'll talk a bit more in this podcast about the history of UBB and kind of the why it's such a big deal for that town, for that place. But just kind of, I guess, for yourself watching it, at home on TV, the what was it? What were the emotions in terms of throughout the game? Because obviously went behind early on, fought back, scored some incredible tries, and then the second half was just so tense.
Yeah, that was it's typical watching UBB. You go from this kind of super excited, hyped up to kind of biting your nails or what's left of them because the Saints were so strong during a certain period in that second half, and I was expecting them to get over the line and score a try, and you were going, can they actually hold on to this? They did, thankfully, they did, but it was a tense second half. It really was tense. And I'm still wearing the same jersey, and there's wine stains on it. There's coffee stains on it. There's champagne stains on it.
Show the ladies and gentlemen at home, I think this is allowed on YouTube, the size of the glass of champagne that you currently have accompanying you.
Just a small one.
For the audio listeners, I've never seen a champagne glass with that much champagne in it. I didn't think it was possible. I thought it would foam up all over the place, but Maz has told me that no, it's my fault for being an idiot.
No, I poured it very, very slowly. And in fact, there's 2 sips gone out of that because my lipstick mark is on. So it was fuller than that. And I'm going to have another sip.
Well,
You
they
might.
they're saying, I think EK Analysis posted on Twitter that there's won't be a grape unsqueezed in Bordeaux this week. And isn't wine at something like a all-time low in prices or something like that?
Yeah, apparently it is. They have all the big wine expos and everything on at the moment over the last few weeks. And that's apparently it's not that I see the difference when I go to buy a bottle, but anyway.
Okay, well, let's get into actually talking some nitty-gritty of the game then. So, kind of the way it went, obviously Saints scored early on, but if you watch UBB enough as we do in the top 14, you know that they often concede first. Like they played Castro last week and they went 14-0 down in the first 10 minutes, ended up scoring 35 odd unanswered points in response. So I wasn't kind of too worried at that point. But I think the sides to UBB that we've seen in the final and the semi-final of this Champions Cup is an element of control that we've seen. Look, if I show the people the kind of possession map, you're talking over 70% of UPB's possession was in Saints half, and 38% of their possession was in Saints 22. And I think that really is driven high by that period in the second half when Untamak, that was a faux
Ah,
pas.
oh,
Jalibert and Lucu were chipping over the top of Saints for like someone for penalty challenge. There was They were getting a penalty in Saints 22, then they were kicking to the corner, not scoring a try, and then Saints would try and exit, but they just couldn't get out of their own half. So where to start with that? So let's firstly focus on the negative of, for God's sake, Maz, why couldn't they just score a maul try?
oh, how many times were they camped on that line? And they kept going for touch to have their line outs, which they won. I mean, and that one with Lamotte, oh, I was just like, oh, I can't believe that he lost that just before the line. I mean, that was such a huge push. That would have been a spectacular try. But I mean, credit to Saints as well, their defence for holding them lads up. Credit to them, but they just couldn't seem to get over. And I kept on screaming up the top, take the points, take the points, take the points.
Well, I
But
think because they were over a score ahead, it's kind of you
mm,
don't need. We're happy with the game where it's being played. Saints aren't going to run 80 meters to score against us. That's what we do.
mm, yeah,
And it was kind of like Lucu just saying, and that we'll come on to the game management now of a halfback just taking control of the game and saying, this is what's going to happen from this moment onwards, and this is how we are going to win this cup.
yeah, he was absolutely superb yesterday, wasn't he? I mean, okay, he did have a few handling errors, he did have a few knock-ons, but generally, and he only what 2 out of the 4 conversions, I think he only kicked. But his whole game management, like you said, was extraordinary, extraordinary. Him and Lucu, the two of them were just probably the best I've seen them play. Like they were exceptional against Toulouse, but they were exceptional yesterday. Were probably even better yesterday.
Talk to me a bit more about Lucu himself. So this is a man who has, in the last couple of years, been derided because of who he's not. Because there's this guy called Antoine Dupont who exists and is the guy who is the superstar of world rugby at the moment and has achieved so much as a player by being the other man, the other French scrum half. Lucu has copped a lot of flack from, I think, fans who don't watch him every week in the top 14. And he has worn that with fortitude, and he has just taken his club by the scruff of the neck at times to the peak of where they've ever been.
Yeah, I mean, he's always going to be in Dupont's shadow, isn't he? Or no matter who it is, they're always going to be in his shadow. He has been absolutely, as captain of the club, he is such a leader. He's such an inspiration. And he's actually a really, really nice guy. And you will see him, apart from his whole play, you'll see him after a game, staying on the pitch maybe 15, 20 minutes after the game is over, sitting in the middle of the pitch playing with kids, other players' kids, and his nephews and nieces and stuff like that. He is a really down to earth, nice guy. And I'm delighted that this year he's been so good. And he is an inspiration, even just listening to his team talks and the way that he gets them going in the dressing room, on the pitch. And he is, as you say, he's taken them by the scruff of the neck, literally, and dragging them through games. And yeah, absolutely fantastic. He was coming in last year, he had a pretty good year, but he has been exceptional this year, just exceptional.
He has. And if I just flash back to in the Top 14 final last season where he was on the pitch and he was so broken after what happened in that game. So the mental strength for him to come back, not only from that, but let's be honest, the things that people were saying about him
Mm,
whilst Dupont was out, and he came into the Six Nations and showed like, hey, by the way, I'm pretty good. And now he's done it like UBB have beaten Toulouse 3 times in the same season now.
yeah.
And I think if you are to do the comparison between him and Dupont, obviously there are things to do Dupont can do that Lucu can't. But I think passing off the base, I think Lucu is better. I think long kicking,
Mm-hmm.
Lucu has a longer boot on him. Clearly, place kicking is something that he's got that Dupont hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen as a captain, Lucu drag a team around more than I've seen Dupont do in terms of the kind of captain of follow me kind of taking controlness and dragging a team to maybe results that perhaps they wouldn't have otherwise got in a way that I'm not sure I've seen Dupont do.
Yeah, and it's probably their characters as well. And as you say, a lot of people don't know that much about Lucu. When you, as we watch him every week in the top 14s, but um, yeah, it's his character. He is, as you say, at the end of that final last year, he was in bits, and he has said it took him a long, long time to get over that, and it has made him stronger, much, much stronger mentally. Um, I can't say enough about him. I just, yeah.
Well, we could go on and talk about pretty much the whole UBB backline. You know, the pack, I think it's fair to say for UBB is okay. It does a
Mm.
job, but the backline is the really special thing. And you know, we could talk for hours about Moafana and Peno and LBB. Goodness me, there's going to be a lot said about LBB this season. He's got to be in the running for World Player of the Year. But the player that I want to focus on, in my opinion, and I'll put my name to it, the most disrespected rugby player in the world is Matthieu Jalibert, the number 10. Conor McNamara, the UBB attack coach, said that he thinks that um, Matthieu Jalibert is the best number 10 in the world at the moment. And I'm struggling to find data to the contrary, to be honest.
He's been exceptional too, hasn't he? Again this year, just exceptional. He had a rough year last year too. He had we've talked about this before, a very rough year in the autumn internationals, and getting crucified here in France by the media and by other clubs. And he has just answered them in a way that, as I call them, rugby drama, is actually now he's their favorite player in the entire world at the moment. And that is a huge turnaround. And he was playing with them at one stage yesterday, wasn't it? It was just like, can you really do that? How many defenders did he beat in that one move?
Well, that's the thing because when I counted it live, I counted 7. And
Yeah.
then when I went on social media, I saw people saying 6. I'll see if I can find it, but they were talking about when he kind of stepped back off his left, went past about the whole Saints team and puts Coleman
Mm.
of all people over in the corner.
Yeah.
Um, but according to Rugby Pass, he only beat 4 defenders in the whole game, and I'm looking at that thinking,
Mm.
well, that's wrong. He beat more than that.
That's rugby pass. Yeah, that's another planet I don't want to get involved in. But yeah, but he actually beat these defenders without actually seeming to move anywhere. Do you know what I mean? He just was in, did he run what, 10 meters in that? And it was all diagonally, it was all across. He wasn't going forward, he was going across. That was just exceptional. And as you say,
Here
long
we go.
then
I
out
found
to
it.
22nd minute, something like that, I think. And then the long ball out to Coleman and over we go. Yeah.
Yeah. This is when we talk about the comparison between Lucu and Dupont, obviously the other one is the comparison between Mac and Jalibert. And I don't get pleasure in saying that since Mac did his ACL, he's not been the same player, and there is no planet where Mac is doing this, what Jalibert is doing. And with Matthieu Jalibert is a masterpiece of a season. The level that he's performing at week in, week out, I'll put my name to. I'm not seeing from any other fly half, if any other player in the world at the moment. And people might say, okay, it's at club level, he's not doing it international level. Well, he's not getting the opportunity at international level, but he can't be doing more at club level. And ball in hand, he's not about tackling, or at least not front on tackling. He's always going to take a risk when maybe Mac would play safe, which it is maybe the wrong thing to do at times. But there is no 10 that is going to be getting the results. That is going to be getting the output that Jalibert is at the moment.
Yeah, no, he is. Yeah, as you say, Entomac, and it happens a lot where people coming back from those injuries. He just isn't the same. I've also read that Entomac might need a little bit of a knee clean operation or something during the summer.
He's still heavily strapped, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah. But Jalibert is a much better player at the moment. Again, you're going to have people going, no, yes, no. But at the moment, he's been sensational since about what, February, beginning of February. Unstoppable, really unplayable at times, and especially the last few games. The semi-final against Toulouse, he was unplayable, and again yesterday. So yeah, and it's all the different moves that he has. As you say, it's not safe a lot of the time, but that's UBB. Do they play safe? No, not a lot. they're willing to try these new things. And he was going from little kind of grubber kicks to small over the head kicks to chandelles. He had a hell of a mix of rugby yesterday. He really did. Everything, all his little skills were certainly put on show yesterday.
Well, that's one of the stats is that in the game there was a lot of kicks in this game, and
Yeah.
UBB 38 kicks in total, which is a fair few. And like you said, the mix of kicks, the grubbers through, a lot of chips over the top, but a lot of going long as well, which is very French rugby in general. And if you look at the kick to pass ratio, you think of UBB as kind of the Jouet team. Kick to pass ratio of 1 to 3.2. So, like you said, we're in a final when you're just getting on top and you get ahead, it's just about let's have the ball in your 22 and then see what you can do about it from there. And the stats in terms of rucks. 64 rucks for UBB, 94 for Northampton. UBB,
Wow.
a team that's happy to go without the ball. And,
Mm.
for all the comments about, maybe not the most heavyweight team, maybe a couple of players like Jalibert and Penno who aren't born to defend, the club stats for defense, if we're talking about missed tackles where the player was tackled, so basically recovery tackles, UBB best in the world. 81% of missed tackles are recovered. You talk about
Wow.
missed tackles leading to line breaks. 11%, 10.9% for UBB, the best in the world. Despite
Oh,
what we see and we think of them as being flaky, they do have a defensive side to them.
they do. And I Penno was even tackling yesterday, like actual going in and making tackles, which usually he avoids. Like he's like, I'm not going to tackle that lad. But he even made quite a good few big tackles yesterday, which is good to see. And LBB had a massive amount of tackles, I thought, yesterday as well, more than his usual. or maybe it was just the way that I was seeing it that it came across.
Well, Lucu was the top tackler in the game, according to Rugby
Mm,
Pass, with 16, which happens more and more with scrum halves at the moment, I'm noticing. Then you got Kazu, um, Poirot, or both into double figures. Moafana, who's a player I owe an
mm,
apology. You know, I started this season saying I'm not sure he's the real deal, and he's become the real deal during this season. Jalibert got 9. Um, but I just think that the way that Saints play suited UBB. I don't think there was enough of a clash of the styles. And I think they were that
mm.
similar. And
Yeah,
when you've got two similar teams, the team with the better players is going to come out on top. And you know, for all of how great I think Finn Smith is, for all of how great I think Tommy Freeman is, are they better than Demi Penaud and Matthieu Jalibert and Mo
no,
Afana and players like that? For me, no.
no, and they certainly weren't yesterday. Um, as you know, I don't see a lot of the English Premiership, and I hear more about them than I see. And I wouldn't have thought that Finn Smith had what you would call a fantastic game yesterday. Not at all. Jalibert was much better player than him yesterday. Um, they had a few players that I was really impressed by. Coles that got the 2 tries. He was exceptional. He really was, and probably would have been quite up there, I imagine, for player of the game. He wouldn't have been far off it. And another one that stood out for me for Northampton was their pilier gauche, Eogun, Eogun,
Uh,
number 1.
Number one. There you go. For people who don't know French, there you go. You're learning one. Pilier gauche is the loose head prop. Uh, oh my goodness, I'm not sure I can say it either. Yogan. I think
Is
it's
yeah,
Iogun. Apologies. Emmanuel is his first name for getting that wrong, but yes, him.
yeah, he had an exceptional game too, I thought. Um, and as you said, I suppose their game plan maybe went out of the window a little bit in the first 10, 15 minutes with the players getting injured as well.
Yeah, the injuries.
Yeah, that was a frantic first 10, 15 minutes, wasn't it? I was, if this keeps going like this, I would have been off the sofa. And yeah, it was a very frantic start to the game. But I wouldn't, apart from Coles or Cole, is he Coles? Coles. I don't think any other player in Northampton was better than their counterpart of the other team.
Alex Coles, number 6.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, speaking of that we'll just touch on it just briefly. The Northampton number 8, Henry Pollock, has been making headlines since the game. Apparently, UBB have lost their head. Apparently, they're rattled, Maz. That's what the English is saying.
yeah. Apparently, he's living in their heads. Uh, you know, that's quite a take on it, really, isn't it? Considering that UBB won the game 4 tries to 2, and whatever fracas went on after the game, you're seeing different angles of it. I don't know what happened. It looked like something between himself and Poirot went on, and Poirot walked away, and then Tafuto gave him a kind of a slap back on the chest kind of thing, and then I don't know what that was all about. But the guy does himself no favors, does he? Like,
Well, for me, I think it's, you know, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Henry Pollock, I'm afraid, you know, if you want to be the guy who goes around giving it out, you know, when you lose, people are going to give it back to you, and that's just how it's going to go. Um,
yeah,
and like I said, if you're going to be the one who gives it, you got to be able to take it back. And I have to say, I'm not massively impressed by the English media kind of rallying around him and kind of making it all about that. I think we need to talk all about the fact that there's a new king of European rugby and it's UBB, and there's this kid who's kind of lost his head at the end of the game. And I think to go around saying that he's the victim, I think it's time for everyone to chill out.
yeah, it is a bit. And I mean, the UBB players are really rubbing it into him. I even saw on the bus. It seems to be very personal, not personal, but between him and Tavuta. I don't know what that is. And he was the one in the dressing room with the 2 fingers doing all the time. And he had a sign on the bus this evening going, Cam, Pollock, or something like that. I couldn't see it fully. Pollock. Sorry, did I say?
Freudian slip. It's okay. We move.
Yes, got my vowels mixed up there. But so that seems to be, I don't know if there can't be any kind of old history between them. But I think him coming out before the week and calling them a bunch of mercenaries wasn't probably a very good idea at all.
Yeah, that seems to have gone down badly with the boys, hasn't it? That they kind of took that personally, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They did. And you can see replies on certain posts and you go, well, they actually know absolutely zero about UBB and the team, because if they did, they would realize how many players the French players have come through their training center, their center formation, and with the espoirs and things like that. So they actually know very little, and they're just
that's the thing, isn't it? Is the European Player of the Year for 3 years in a row now has been French, and French teams have won the last 5 titles in a row. So, what do you want? Yeah, it's not like, oh, sorry, yes, you do have more academy players in your team, therefore we shall reverse the result of the game. It's not how it works. I think it's just fittingly sour grapes, but it was sweet, sweet grapes for UBB.
Yeah. And a big shout out to Arthur Ritier. 3 European titles with 3 different clubs. La Rochelle.
I didn't know that.
Did you not?
No, you should have messaged me that so I could tweet it.
Oh, really? I thought you would have known that. Was that not talked about? Wow.
I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, he was scrum half or on the wing, can't remember, with La Rochelle, and then with Stade Toulouse, and now with UBB. Yeah, 3 different titles.
Gosh, that's reminded me actually. What went on with the Buros substitution on 15 minutes? Do we know the story there?
Yeah, I do. He hadn't trained fully all week. His abductors were giving him a lot of chip. He was very heavily strapped too. And then that time when was it Forbank?
Yeah.
When he fell over and all of that, I think he must have pulled something then, and they took him off. It was a doubt whether he would start or not. It was something
because he was on crutches a few days ago.
Yeah. And they had kind of kept it out of the media a bit, and it was always a doubt whether he would start. But yeah, that's what happened. So they pulled him and they put LBB in at fullback, and which you can do, which is the joys.
That's probably why LBB didn't score.
Yeah, he did, but it was disallowed.
Oh yeah. Oh well. I maintain that one of Penno's tries was actually just LBB in a chicken suit and no one noticed.
I know, and people are like, "Oh my God, is he losing his touch?" Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, that's 2 best wingers in the world at the moment.
Yeah, and yeah, he has played often at fullback, so it was an easy change for him. Well.
Okay, so that brings to an end the first section of the show when we're reviewing the game. If you're enjoying what you're listening to so far, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. Thank you to everybody who's helped me get to 5,000 subscribers in the last week. Merci beaucoup for that. If you would also like to check out this podcast, if it's too long for you on YouTube, you can listen to the rest of it on audio platforms, whether that be Apple, whether that be Spotify. Just search HG Rugby and you'll find us there. Cheers. Okay, Maz, so we've spoken about the game. Now let's talk about the history of UBB. As I said in the intro, only been around 20 years, which people might not realize. So kind of talk to us about how that came about and how UBB as we know it now became into existence.
In 2006, it was a merger of a Club Athletic Begles. Begles is actually a suburb of Bordeaux, and Stade Bordelais University. Both are very old clubs. Bordelais University was a huge team back in the early 1900s, and I think they won something like 7 titles. Begles were a team that I think came into existence before the First World War, and they actually won the French championship as recently as 1991. They've won it twice. Yeah. Then both had turn in Stade Bordelais were playing a lot down in the equivalent of Pro D2 and lower leagues, and Begles as well. They were down in Federal 1 when this merger was brought into being. it was talked about in 2003, I think, firstly, and then in 2006, they became, as we now know, Union Bordeaux-Begles. That is then. They played 5 years in Pro D2, and then in 2011 they won promotion to top 14 by beating Albi in the final.
And that's still quite a famous day. I was reading a Telegraph article, or Times article, I think it was, sorry. And UBB fans still refer to that as, until I guess yesterday, would have been the greatest day in their history.
Yeah, I know it was. That was the only kind of trophy they've won as a team, which was, yeah. And they've been in the top 14 ever since. They didn't go up or didn't go down. They stayed there. Their logo is, I don't know if you can see, I haven't got a logo. Yeah, I've got a flag. Explain the logo. The lion is part of the city shield. And the blue, the checkered blue, is from Beg. It's their old, they had a checkered blue jersey. So they've kept that in, yeah. This is a flag from 2017. And they had blue, like this is my jersey's 2017 as well. They had at the time a lot of blue into it, but now it's mostly gone just burgundy claret for their home jerseys. And their away European is mostly blue again for their big side. Yeah, but it was a very peaceful merger. Sometimes these things aren't peaceful, but it was very peaceful. It all went very well. And the current president, Laurent Marty, he took over then as well. And he's actually from Brive, but his business, he's a textile business. He's based in Toulouse. And that's where he made all his money. He's a rich man, but he's not a mega rich man like the owner of Racing or Toulon or
not like Jackie
that.
L or Lamette or
No.
Wild.
He has money, and he is very dedicated to the club. He's absolutely adored by everybody there. He's a very soft-spoken man. He's not a controversial figure. You never see him in a spat with anyone or anything like that. And it's all, I suppose, about him having this very long-term plan for the club, and the budget's going up little by little by little. When they got promoted to Top 14, they were still playing a lot of their matches, which is now at their training centre out at Moga, which is in Beg. And then they started to use Stade Chaban. Now, Chaban itself is a very historic building, and I think it has what you call like landmark, the historic trust kind of.
Yeah, it's listed, what we'd call in the UK.
Listed, that's it, yeah. It was built in 1933, and they had some of the World Cup matches there from 1940 something or other. They've had the Tour de France go through it, but it's an Art Deco stadium. It has lots of bronze naked statues. You've probably seen my photographs with the big ceramic urns with the naked men and things like that. They reckon the way that the whole shape of the building is, the roof of it is meant to look like the grille of a Rolls-Royce car or something like that. It was called Parc Lescure until recently, and now it's named after a mayor of Bordeaux, Delma. But there, I mean, we started going not long after they got promoted. We used to go, our games we used to go to was a cast game, because they would have it at 12:30 on a Sunday. So it was perfect for us to get down and back on the same day. But Rafael Ibanez, he was the coach for a long time. He was the coach for about 5 years. And I mean, it wasn't great. They were always kind of 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th even, I think, at one stage. I mean, they were only one place off the playoffs. He left after 5 years, and then they had it was a really bad time in around 2017, 2018. They had 3 or 4 managers. They had Jacques Brunel come in as an interim coach before he went off to coach was it Italy or somewhere for the World Cup, I think.
Yes,
Can't
I think
remember.
it rings a bell.
Yeah. Then Rory Teague took over in January 2018, and he was gone November the same year. And then we had the arrival of Christophe Furios. And
Mr. Furious, the
yes,
most
yes, yes.
aerodynamic man in rugby.
Oh man, I think you either like him or you don't like him. But in
Current coach
fairness,
of Clermont.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And in fairness to him, he did bring them on. He really did. He took over. When did he take over? 2019 until 22. And he was there when they were winning the league by 8 points, and then it was abandoned because of COVID.
They
And
were
that was,
leading the COVID
yeah,
season that got cancelled. Bordeaux were leading the championship by a lot.
yeah, 8 points, I think, ahead of Lyon. Yeah. So we'll never know. You know, that could have been maybe their year. They had a fantastic team that year. Oh, it was just Semi was there, Blair Connor was still playing, Poirot was there, Minardier, Adam Ashley Cooper, Lamb, which Lamb? Ben Lamb. There was big names there at the time. And Bruce Rihanna was probably still playing, Matthieu Clerkin. So yeah, we'll never know, unfortunately. But that was the start, because then I think they were in the semi-final of the Challenge Cup against Bristol. Now, when was that? I have to look at a note that I made about that, because I'm not great with dates. That would be in the same year, the next year, yeah. And then they started coming up and were finishing, like they were getting to the barrages, the playoffs with the top 14 from about every year after that. So they were getting to playoffs, getting to the semi-finals, usually losing against Toulouse or La Rochelle in the semi-final, so we were along the line. They got to a semi-final of the European Cup in, not last year, the year before? Yeah, the year before, I think it was. Last year they didn't even qualify. Oh, they made it to the last 16, didn't they? I can't remember those kind of silly
Last year,
formats.
they got knocked out by Harlequins in the quarterfinal.
That was it. Yes, yes, that's what it was. I was there as a there's things I forget. I think that's one of those matches I want to forget. But yeah, so they are a new club, and because they're fairly new, they don't have a lot of traditions. They don't have a lot of, I suppose, rugby songs, rugby traditions. So it's still kind of learning as they go along for things like that. But they are adored in the city. I mean, trying to get tickets now for matches is getting practically impossible. For the Van game, I don't know how long I was watching the ball go towards the goalpost again. Finally got it. We're not even in the same section of the stand. We would normally get seats together, no problem. But and I suppose it's because it's the last home game, and Van as well. I think there'll be a lot of people down from Brittany for that game too. So
Yeah.
but there's a lot like that. There's still even rivalry. La Rochelle obviously is their closest team, but Bayonne are also very close to Bordeaux. So
One of those rivalries is a bit friendlier than the other. I think it's fair to
yeah,
say.
definitely it is. Yeah, La Rochelle are a bit of a bête noire as well for UBB. They find it very difficult to beat them.
Yeah,
Um,
they're a bad matchup. And when I was talking about Saints
yeah.
being a good matchup, I think La Rochelle are a bad matchup. I just want to flick back to the merger thing because this is quite a French thing. Because kind of in the UK, especially in Wales, for goodness sake, merger is very much a dirty word, and it's almost seen as better to fail as one rather than succeed together. Whereas in France, the mergers can be quite controversial, like the Paris merger, for example. But it seems more accepted as a thing that it is better to say, no, look, we've got a better chance of succeeding together than we do apart.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the other thing as well, neither teams at the time were in the top 14 or in the neither teams were very successful. And because Beg is part of the Bordeaux area, and it's really only what, about 10, 15 minutes from the city centre by tram. It's not far out. That probably helps as well, even though there would have been rivalry going down the years. Because if, as you say, can you imagine Racing and Stade a merger? And the other one, Bayonne Biarritz, that is never going to happen. Never. There's too much bad blood there. There didn't seem to be a lot of bad blood between the two clubs when they merged as well. It does go on a lot here. A lot goes on a lot, especially now because of finance in the lower leagues. You'll get a lot of teams in the federals merging. Some successfully, some not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I think it's a uniquely French thing, or maybe not uniquely. Maybe it does happen kind of elsewhere in Europe and things that we maybe don't get to see. But with the kind of it just does with the advent of kind of the franchise teams that we see around the world, like we see mostly in the URC, or England looks to be heading that way, or even down in New Zealand, you wouldn't get these mergers. So it can be quite odd, I think, for particularly, I speak as a UK rugby fan, to think of two clubs coming together and it being successful. It would normally be a sign of something bad. But like you say, in France, there are examples of that, like the Biarritz Bayonne thing, which was a disaster, or the attempted merger between Stade Francais and Racing 92, which, of course, I know that you think might still happen, but there was went down very badly, and players going on strike and things, which is
Yeah.
I suppose in itself uniquely French. But so that's kind of the history. We're going to talk a bit in a moment about what it's like just going to Bayonne and sorry, Bayonne. Yeah, I'm tripping over myself here. What it's like going to Bordeaux and being a fan of UBB and what that experience is like. But just as a reminder, if people are enjoying what they're listening to so far, again, myself and Maz, we do a weekly French rugby podcast, and you can find it. It's called the Top 14 Digest. You can check it out. You can give it a 5-star review if you want, and share links with your friends and help it grow. It gets you all of the kind of gossip from French rugby, all of the drama, all of the results. We talk about every team as best we can. And if you are just new to discovering the world of French rugby, it's such a rich and vibrant kind of the landscape to pick from. If you are a genuine rugby fan, I've enjoyed making it. I love making it, and I really hope that you'll enjoy listening to it too. So, cheers in advance. Okay, Maz. So, on to the final part of the show, then, where we talk about the experience of being a UBB fan. So, as I said in the intro, 32,000 fans a week, the most of any rugby club in the world. What do you put that down to? How have they managed to achieve that?
Even as I said, we started going 15 years ago, 16 years ago. And even at the time when they weren't doing well, they were still getting 22, 23,000 people in to the stadium. It wouldn't be full, but they were still getting pretty decent crowds. Then as they started to get a little more successful, obviously that attracts more people. Also, they no longer have a football team. The football team was relegated for all kinds of finance problems. And they're in the, oh God, fourth division or something like that. I
Yeah,
don't
it's a
know.
sad story. The whole thing about the League One and the TV money and things just all vanished, and all sorts of
Yeah,
bother.
yeah. And I don't know the full story behind it. But then you had a lot of people because they had a brand new stadium, Matmut, built out outside the city. And it is an absolutely fantastic stadium. And you were left then with people with nowhere to go. And you had a lot of people always at Bordeaux at the rugby that went to both because especially if the games weren't on the same day. So there seemed to a lot of people that were going to the football suddenly was going more to the Bordeaux games. And like I said, it is now getting difficult to get tickets. Town gets behind them. The shops, same as any town really, but flags everywhere, things like that. But the stadium is just the best stadium. It has got an amazing atmosphere. It's old, as I said, built in 1933. It's a kind of a case of decaying grandeur, if you know what I mean. The facilities aren't, they're not modern. That's what I can say. But there's something very special about it, and especially a nighttime game. It's quite near the city centre. You could walk out from city centre in about 20, 25 minutes but there is a tram that goes. You'll be out there in the tram. You're probably quicker walking than taking the tram because the tram goes around kind of a long way. So there's that as well. Easy to get to. The facilities around it, lots of bars, lots of restaurants that all do their kind of match day menu. Like you'll get people, the match could be at 9 o'clock at night and you'll have people booking the restaurants at 12 o'clock in the day. So you can that kind of thing to make a day of it. And then, as I said, the whole decor, the big arches going into the stadium. It's quite a scene when you arrive at it. The other thing that's the staff are lovely. All the staff are really, really nice, very, very friendly. Although this year they have got a professional security team in, which it was just their club members and volunteers that were doing security beforehand. Hence, I was able to jump over walls to get at rugby players many times.
Well,
that doesn't sound great.
I wasn't gonna go there, but since you've gone there, so come on, let's have a couple of stories from Maz. So come on, accosting rugby players in UBB, going up to them, getting your photo taken with them. What's your best one?
Oh, Adam Ashley Cooper. Yeah, absolutely, Adam Ashley Cooper, because he's one of my favorite players ever. And when he signed for Bordeaux, I was just like, I can't believe this. Like, I was at another UBB tears experience. And he came after the World Cup that had been played in England. And it was on Twitter. And I was kind of saying to him, well, I'd be there, sending tweets, blah, 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 looking forward to you playing in Bordeaux. And I said, I'd love to have my photograph taken with you. And I remember one night at about midnight, my Twitter message from Beep, and it was him. And I went, this is somebody having me on like this. Oh, when are you down for the next match kind of thing? And I said, oh, it was the Exeter game in the Champions Cup. They're going to the Exeter. Okay. He says, I'll find you. And he did after because I told him more or less where we'd be sitting. And after the game, he was doing lots of interviews. And the way that it is in UBB, it's not pitch side. There's like an old velodrome thing that goes
like a running
around the
track.
side. Yeah, but except it's really low down. And so you can't get close to the pitch at all. You can't get close to the players. So he did see me. And there was a very nice security man that was there. And I said, I need my photograph taken with him. Blah, blah, blah. And I started climbing a wall. And the man was like, oh, what do I do now? What do I do now? And he says, you can't climb that wall. I said, I am. I said, can you give me a leg up? He says, no, I can't. And then Cooper came over and had the photograph taken. Yeah. In the end, and he did it twice, he actually climbed up over two walls to get to me. And I was going, please don't pull a muscle or something in the middle of doing this.
That is a good one.
Yeah, it is a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah, the security man never forgot me. He'd see me coming and go, oh God, you again.
He's looking at you like, I'm watching you.
Yeah, but they've got the professionals in now as well. But I have a very, very funny story when Christoph Urios was there. And it was a game against Edinburgh, I think. And most of the bars are all underneath the stadium, but they have one kind of little porta cabin, which was the bar at the time. And they had won. And of course, I was inside getting the drinks for the people. We had Edinburgh friends over. And next thing, the security men arrived. And then the whole team arrived in with Christoph. And they hadn't changed. They were still in their gear from the match. And the doors was closed. And we were locked in for about an hour with the team in this little kind of porta cabin bar. I couldn't get out, which didn't bother me, I might say, but nobody else could get in. So I had all the drink for all the Edinburgh people. And I had, I think, 4 or 5 jugs of beer. Christoph was great for things like that. He always kind of made sure that there was huge interaction between the players and the fans. Yeah, and he did that often.
That's the thing about UBB that, obviously I'm observing from a distance. All I'm going for is what I see on TV and what I can see on social media. And in all sports, you get clubs and fan bases who are kind of a bit Like they don't like outsiders, and they um, they spend a lot of their time talking about other clubs and other fan bases and things like that. And but with UBB, I just get the sense that the fans just love their team, not particularly fussed about anybody else. Like don't get bogged down in all that. And the club, just the amount that they give their fans in terms of content on social media, in
Mm.
terms of how many of them they get into the stadium and things, it just seems like a really fan first experience.
Yeah, it is. And it's also very family orientated as well, because it's such a huge stadium. I think kids under 10 get in, or
And
under
what's the thing
12.
about seats behind the posts?
Ah, uh, what price are they? €7 for a seat behind the post. That's the cheapest seat that you can get there. Yeah. And if you think about Top 14's game, it's slightly more expensive for Europe. I think it's €10 behind the post for Europe. So just do, yeah,
Still not very much.
you can go and see UBB play Toulouse for €7. It, yeah, it's quite extraordinary. But that's what they've also tried to do, to bring in people, make it affordable for people to go. So you have big stadium to fill, sell the tickets cheaply, and they'll come, and they do. And
And they
yeah,
do.
yeah,
And how much
and
does
they
this?
have
Sorry, go on.
our normal seats are beside the official supporters club, United BB. I think you probably have seen them on things. And the team comes to that corner after every single game, and that's where they do all their dancing, and all the phones are chucked over for selfies. And I'm going, these phones, because it's concrete, and they're going to fall into these kind of big uh, concrete drain things. Oh, yeah, no, it's a great experience, really good experience. Yeah.
Gosh, and how much does the style of play feed into that? Does UBB being an exciting team, a counter-attacking team, a flair team, feed into the love they get from the fans?
Oh, it absolutely does. It really does. They almost can feel something going to happen from the halfway line, especially when they see somebody getting the ball, and they can go, oh yeah, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And they are just building a momentum all the time. And the whole stadium absolutely shakes when they score a try. It really does. Yeah, they they just adore them. They absolutely adore them. And likewise, both and for the team as well, they adore their fans. They have absolutely no problem ever. If you meet any of the players in the street, in a bar afterwards, or things like that, they will just stand and talk to you like they've known you for ages. And that's what always gets me. And you kind of going, yeah, but you're so and so. And yeah, just Lucu is a great example of that. He will just chat to you, no problem. Um, we first met him when Ben Botica played at UBB. And we know the Botica family from New Zealand for years and years. And Ben wasn't actually there when we met Lucu and a few more guys, and we were just talking about it. He started talking to us about 2 hours that night, just like, you're part of the gang, sit down here. And a lot of them, when they go out socially, they'll say, no photos, and then if you, yeah, that's no problem. They all know us for years now anyway. And you just sit with them and have a drink, or don't sit with them. You just kind of go sometimes, hi, how are you? Leave you on your own, how's thing going? We often don't even talk about rugby. They're that kind, you just kind of chit chat about different things. Yeah. Yeah, no, really, really top class blokes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of to tie up on that, whenever I see about people who go and visit Bordeaux, they're always taken aback at like, wow, rugby's really mainstream here. Like most places in the UK again is football first, or even if you go somewhere like Bath or somewhere which is rugby first, it's like a side thing. It's not the main thing of the city. People are always surprised when they go to Bordeaux of like, there's a picture of Maxime Lucu in a shop window. Like it's alien almost to us that rugby is so foremost in that part of the world.
Yeah. And you can imagine what it's like in Toulouse. Like, it's even more so down there. And Bayonne and places like that. It's just rugby country. And even though they are a new team, and now I think as well with this victory yesterday and being European champions, that's even going to add more to it. They'll bring in easily more sponsors and more everything. People want to be part of it now. And I think people who maybe never even went to a rugby match before will probably want to go to a game. So
more games at Matmut.
Yeah, they lose money when they play at Matmut. That's the huge problem. Yeah, that's why they don't like playing there. They are obliged to play one game a year there by the town council, and that's normally against La Rochelle or Toulouse, because you'll easily fill 42,000 into it, no problem. And I recently, the president Marty, he said no, he didn't want to play any more than 2 games a year at Matmut. I don't know how it works out that they lose money, but they do. And you can't be losing, if you've got a big game, you can't be losing money like that. Because last year when the North Stand was closed for 6 months or 7 months because of repairs, they reckoned that they lost, I can't remember how many, 5-6 million just on revenue from drinks and food and boutique and things like that, because you had, what goes in there, about 7,000 people. So it was a lot of money to lose. So, and then financially hard times, and I don't know how it works out, but no, he doesn't want to play more than 2 games.
Yeah, UBB not the biggest spenders in the top 14, and that kind of brings us to the final point that I wanted to talk to you about is European champions, top 14 finalists last year, beat Toulouse 3 times this season already. Is the big one on? Is the top 14 in reach?
That's difficult to say, isn't it? They have big game next week against Toulon. How many of them will be playing? How much that squad is going to be rotated, I don't know. That game should decide who gets the home semi-final, and then they have one less game. If they only make the playoffs, it's going to be difficult. Because they don't have the huge squad like nobody has the same squad as Toulouse. So it's very difficult for smaller squads to keep rotating and keep going week in, week out. Semi-final, definitely. Final, possibly, yeah, possibly a final. But
I agree with you. Over the course of a season, a long season in France, obviously, UBB's first 15, first 23, I can probably rock with most, if not all. Once you take half a dozen players out of that, it really starts looking quite thin. I would say that Toulon have a what's the word? Stronger overall squad than UBB overall over the course of a season. Of course, Toulon have had some tough results lately, but it's just no one can stand up to Toulouse with the depth that they have. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And I can't see anybody stopping Toulouse. I really can't. Again this year, I think it's theirs for the losing, more for the winning. You never know. I mean, things can go wrong on a day, and you never know. A few players might unfortunately get injured, red cards, things like that. You don't know, but it is theirs for the losing. Yeah, can't see anybody stopping them.
But one thing's for sure, if you want to find out about what happens, you need to listen to the Top 14 Digest with me and Maz. So that brings us to the end. So merci beaucoup, Madame Maz. And what is it? Félicitations? Félicitations in French for winning the European Cup. I hope that you and all of your friends in Bordeaux enjoy it massively. Merci beaucoup to everybody for watching this podcast, listening to this podcast. If you have enjoyed it and you're still not subscribed, please do. It really helps out covering the costs to make this podcast. And just leaves for me to say, I hope that you enjoy the rugby, and I hope that everybody's team wins. Bye-bye.
Bye.